Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to be showcasing what I've been doing the past couple months. So basically, I've been doing two things, and for the most part, I've been doing this little mini map project. So right here is what the mini map is going to look like, or this is at least the prototype I've made for a mini map. And this is my first iteration of it. I'm going to be going through just about all iterations. I definitely have lost some, progress of my previous attempts. They've kind of been lost in the code. I don't think I've deleted it, but it's just uh, somewhere. So this is my first sort of prototype. Um, what you can see here is that my character is moving, uh, represented by that white little worm thing. Uh, that last white dot is my current location, and it'll show everything around it. It has a range, and there's these little blue walls that currently don't have any collision. I think I could turn that on or off. I just decided to leave it off. And yeah, it has this cone of vision. It follows it wherever. Obviously not too good as a mini map because it moves around, but we'll get to that soon enough. You can change the vision. So look, you can see everywhere I've been, all the points that have been created, and uh, can increase the vision even more so that, it's like you don't even have vision uh, range or limitations. So that's the first iteration. This is the next iteration. Pretty much the same thing, except it stays in the same place. One thing is different is it has different values. You can see right now it's not too random because they all group up in the same sort of area. It's might be hard to tell, but each of these little red things is a different shade of red. Um, some are pink, some are orange, some are red, and then the blue hallways or whatever those are, their generation is basically the same. And basically, the only change between these two iterations is that now it stays in place. Next, we do a bit of a big jump here. This is something that I worked on because I wanted to make procedurally generated sort of hallways and dungeons, and this is something that I cooked up over a long time. It took me a long time to get this working, but basically I wanted to be able to create a custom grid and be able to have it work in all eight directions. So I could have eight directions of boxes to create, and then those boxes together create these. So kind of cool. This is just a showcase showing off that it works basically, not really much else other than that. Next up is what I've been working on recently, and these are squiggles. Now, my game takes place inside the human body. You're going to be navigating the game world through veins, and this was sort of my first step into that. Now, right here we have just different lengths, um, and this is my first iteration right here on this line here. This is my first attempt at making the squiggles, and it wasn't half bad. I kind of prefer it sometimes over this, which these are supposed to be the same value of squiggles, I call it, or waves. These are supposed to be the same, and this one you could tell is kind of sharper. It's a bit more spiky, while this one is more gradual. I like the gradual, but a big problem with this is that on longer waves, it stayed the exact same height. So it looks good in small values, but no matter what, it would never go above this this three little things. So larger squiggle sizes wouldn't make it higher like this. This is the current version. It would instead just stretch it out. It would eventually become very flat looking. So this is kind of the smallest value. It can go a little smaller, kind of like this. I think this is the old code still, but um, kind of look like that. And then obviously bigger values, you can kind of see how the code works. It starts 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then that's the max. That's the squiggle size or the wave size that you feed into the function. And then once it reaches its max, it goes back down 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that works on every single one. Another thing about this is the newer code. You can give it a start and you can give it an end, and it will go start at the start and it will stop at the end. This is not the same with this. I'm pretty sure this is the same exact code, or not code, but same exact start and end. But instead, what it does is it multiplies by the start and end, which is not what I wanted. So it would take a start and then it would iterate each time uh, a point was created. It's kind of complicated. I don't really want to explain it, but it wasn't good. It made it unnecessarily long, very unpredictable, and so this is the new and improved version. La-di-da. Pretty cool. Next up, we have kind of my finished product. And now you're thinking to yourself, what? This is the finished product, really? But it is just what I'm trying to do for just a random generation. It's not supposed to, look very good on the large scale. Realistically, you'll be playing in this little box. So you'll be seeing, this much of the world. And then, if you zoom out, which you won't be able to in game, this is sort of the overall level design. Now, what I did just here is I created a little chunk of land. This would be the red points in that previous example, but I changed them just for, um, not really visual clarity, just more to give it a more gradual change rather than such a harsh one. And so basically, what I've done is each one of these is, and we can restart it to get different variations. It'll be random each time. Each one of these is a vein code. So it combines the squiggle code of this. It does a vertical one, and then along each of those points, it picks a random point along the vertical squiggle, and it creates a horizontal squiggle. And that is just a vein, or what I call a vein. So it kind of creates these weird, abstract, still kind of predictable um, shapes. Now, obviously, it's, very hard to look at, very weird at times. It could definitely use some more optimization, but it gets the general look that I'm going for. This one's kind of a good example. It kind of has this streak through it, and you can see the overall shape of the squiggle in this little curve here. Um, and the next part that I like is this. Now these are weighted values. You can tell it's a little zoomed out, so it's hard to tell, but if I do something like this, it'll be easier to tell. Over right next to the blue points, it is a lime green. As it gets a little further, it gets a darker green, then it becomes a bit more yellowish, and finally it becomes orange. The orange is the furthest value, and I could make it a bit more contrasting if I wanted to, but I kind of like how this looks, so I just kept it this way. The further away, the more it has to check around, so it's harder, and eventually, far enough, it just um, makes it all black. It's a void. You can't go past it. That's like kind of the world limit. And this little square, this little range, how big this can be changed. So it can be bigger, it can be smaller. So, if I'm moving, just one pixel at a time, I don't have to do this giant block at a time. I could just do a small one. And of course, all the weighted values can be changed. It can uh, make it so that the orange appears much sooner or it appears much later. It's just pretty cool. So the deeper you get into the game, the further away you get from the blue lines, which are the veins. So the further you get into the body, the more you traverse, the harder the levels will get. I can add a little bit of randomness to it if I want, but that's basically the gist of it. Pretty proud of it. It's kind of cool. Takes the range away from the blue thing, and then makes the points accordingly. Next up is what I'm working on currently, which is a complete step away from the minimap, and this is now the individual room generation. So this shows the overall map. Each one of these points would be an individual room, and now I want to make each one of those rooms random, and this is sort of my code for that. Now you're thinking, what's going on here? It's pretty self-explanatory, kind of. Um, just in the fact that you can see that this is sort of the starting point, and they all go out, and these are supposed to be exits, and they will all branch out and each for each exit, one of these little X's is spawned, and it finds a path to the exit. It starts at the entrance, finds a path to the exit, and you're thinking, well, why doesn't it just make a straight line? That is because I have these random obstacles. And so if we restart and instantly show, we can see how they're navigating to get around that. It's not perfect, but it kind of makes a cool, unique shape each time. I have it so that you can turn these on and off, and that they randomly spawn um, so that it gets a unique shape each time. So let's see how that looks again without the obstacles being visible. Creates a unique path. Again, it's not perfect, but it's unique, and most of the time it's able to make a path to the end pretty well. Now it's creating tiles. This is another system I made, is this little tile system that automatically adapts and checks which tiles next to it. If there's no tiles next to it, it just creates a blank tile. Now if we do it right next to it, you can kind of see it makes that little black border around it. It might be hard to see, but it creates this little border. So boom, now we've got a cross and all the borders are correct. Now it's not perfect. I still have a lot of work to it. I created this part of it just today, but something that helps it is if you have a big group of it, that doesn't look right. If you go over it again, it kind of fixes itself. So let's see, let's just fill that all out. And boom, all the borders are correct for that one. All the borders are correct for that one. Let's go over this one again. Boom, boom, boom. That looks a bit better. Again, it's not perfect, but it's what I got so far. I'm going to optimize it later, make it how I really want it to be. So hopefully I won't have to go over it again. And if I have to, then so be it. How I made it work for the first time for these guys is it just creates blank, it creates these every single time, and then immediately afterwards, it does the code that checks and tries to make those borders and tries to correct it and use it correctly. So, yeah, that's what I've been working on the past few months. This part is pretty cool. I just created this in the past, 2 days or so. Um, Pathfinding I've worked with before a bit, so that was a bit easy. But this tile stuff is all kind of new to me, and I'm pretty proud of it. And then as for all this stuff, this has been the work of months and months. I've taken lots of breaks in between, but you know, each one, this grid stuff took me forever. It took me way longer than it should have. This stuff took me way longer than it should have. All this stuff I can probably really easily recreate now, but when I first started making this was, oh my gosh, having to create an array and then, plot all those points accordingly where they're supposed to be. This is just all these points are in an array. The array is not organized, but the array contains arrays that have coordinate points, and then those coordinate points are plotted uh, based off of, the X and Y position of them. And then there's a bit of the random generation. I have these functions to create these random rows and columns and diagonal lines and stuff, and then I have the range and stuff. This one, they all stay in place, so instead of it moving freely, it's stuck to one position and it moves relative to that one position. And then this one just creates a ton of different rows. This one is less impressive when you realize that it's deleting all of the previous ones. It's not moving all of these. It's just deleting all of them and then creating new rows and columns to make this grid. But the cool thing about it is that I can reliably do it in all 8 directions. And then this one's also not too crazy. Again, you can kind of tell the code. Getting it to work, was a bit of a hassle, but I did it in my head and then I put it into practice. And after a couple of retries, it obviously didn't work the first time, but I eventually fine-tuned it and got it to where I want it to be, which is now. And then this is just a variation of that. My favorite part of this isn't the big weird looking veins, but just the weighted generation of these points. So, the further it gets, and it's much easier to see with the orange. And again, it takes a lot more time to generate the further out it is, which, not optimal, but I'm not going to be needing to make these giant chunks in the actual game, so I'm not too worried about it. I just thought that was really cool. And then lastly, of course, my random generation rooms, paths. So yeah, that's about it. I hope you liked it. I hope you learned something. If you want to see me do a video where I actually get in depth into the code, maybe I'll clean it up a bit and post a video of that. It's just really messy right now. And as we can see right now, this is an example of it not working. This is kind of what I wanted to show, and I'm glad this is happening. The pathfinding sometimes gets stuck and just goes back and forth infinitely, and it looks like it just gave up. So obviously, there's a lot of stuff I gotta improve before I can, really uh, choose to make this a finalized product for my game. But I'm just happy that I got it working so far. It had a little bit of an issue there, and then it corrected itself. And this system is pretty cool too. Anyway, I'm just rambling now. Hope you liked it, and have a good day.